In today's tutorial, we'll be creating a Christmas poinsettia in Procreate, and we'll cover how to add detail and dimension and use some simple painting techniques. I've created a free color palette for you as always for this tutorial, so you can just hit the link in the description below to download and install into Procreate. We'll be using all free brushes, my favorite sketch, monoline, and watercolor brushes, and you can find a link for them in the description below as well. You'll also find a link to my shop where you can stop by, say hi, see all the creations, and grab some free goodies as well. I've created a canvas using the spec seen here, and we are all ready to go. So I'm going to start by importing a free watercolor texture that I have for you in the description and a link down below, so you can grab that there. So once you download it, you'll just go into your wrench, go into insert file, and I have mine in my downloads, so I'll just tap on that and it will import, and I'm just going to stretch it out, size it up to fit my canvas. Then I'm going to go to my layers and click on that N and turn it to multiply. Actually, I'm going to lock it as well, just so I don't accidentally draw on it. So we're going to hit the plus sign and bring in the new layer below, and we can start our sketch. So that will just give us a nice watercolor texture, just makes it a little bit more authentic looking. So I'm going to just start by just kind of warming up a little bit. I'm going to be using my favorite sketch. It's at about, let's bump it up to about 40%-ish. So I'm just going to warm up by drawing a little sort of oval. I'm planning on having my flower just sort of slightly tilted back just a little bit, and my center point is going to be about here. I'm just going to map out kind of like a wheel almost, just to start. I'm going to have that sort of the center of one petal here, I have another going here. These are sort of my main ones. I have a little guy in here, bigger guy behind. Just sort of, I'm going by memory, of course. It's a great idea to work from a reference photo. I've just drawn these a few times, so I'm just kind of going by that. But you can, by all means, use a reference photo to help you sort of know where to place your petals. I highly recommend it. All right, so I'm just gonna just kind of deciding where things are gonna go. I'm gonna bring this petal out here. Something like that, just again, just really basic shapes. And I'm gonna use this one here. Oops, very messy. Sort of like that. And I'm just gonna have, for variety's sake, just a few sort of smaller ones here. Because they're kind of layered, these flowers. So you want to just make sure you're kind of layering in here. There's another sort of bigger one, main one here. I have a little one overlap, a little one or a bigger one behind. And I'm gonna come in there. I think this one will go behind. Maybe I'll have a little one here too. And this guy is kind of coming down. There's no real right or wrong exactly where you place it, except that you just, as long as you've sort of looked at a poinsettia and understand just the basic size and shapes, there are usually a few more dominant petals and then a few smaller ones, and they all overlap and they're in sort of a star shape. I think that's looking pretty good. And sometimes they have like just really little ones in here. Just again, just leave your rough sketch super rough, super messy, just blocking out things. And just, I don't know, that's what helps me just keep my drawings looking a little bit more loose and free, not too structured. We can get to that part later. Just trying to create some, I don't know, movement, I guess. Okay, So I think that's good for our sketch. So let's go in and actually make it look a little bit more like something. I'm gonna click on the N and turn my opacity down to about, let's say 20%. I'm gonna create a new layer on top, and let's go in and make this look a little bit better. So I'm gonna grab this dark red here. Again, I'm gonna stay on my sketch. I might just bring this down just a hair to about 35%. And let's go in and start making this look nice. So I'm just gonna start by bringing this little guy in here. So I'm just gonna do the center just to kind of get an idea of how I want that to curve, and then bring it around. I'm just playing a little bit with the pressure of my pen too. And here, again, just a little bit soft and light, a little bit narrower at the ends. Again, using that pressure just to create some nice wiggly lines. This guy is tucking in behind here. I'll just bring this. I like the addition of just these little ones, just these little baby petals peeking out. Let's get that center vein here. Same with here, I didn't do that. Maybe that's a little too curved. Okay. And I want to just make sure that we see that this one here is more dominant, so it's going to come over top. This just has a more prominent place. And this one is behind here. I always zoom in, zoom out a lot, you'll notice. Just helps me make sure I haven't gone off the track too much and something's not way off. And maybe it's become a little bit of a habit too. Maybe have a little wiggle to that. That'll be nice. I'm gonna have this sort of bump up because it's a little bit foreshortened, so I'm gonna just have that sort of bumping up a little bit there. It's good. Just keep going around. Actually, I was going to put something there, but I'm going to leave a little bit of space to have a few leaves too. Just a little bit of green here. So I do want to leave some openings. Just making some irregularities just sort of in the ends of things. It also gives it a little bit of more interesting look too. Maybe making one particularly wiggly or a little bit off adds a little charm, I think. Okay, so let's just remove that sketch layer so we can see what's going on a little bit more. Okay, great. And I think it will help us a lot if we have our centers. I'm just gonna put that on a new layer. You don't have to, it's just the way I like to work, just so that if I make any color choices, I can change it after really simply. So I'm going to, let's see, get these little guys here. I want this a little bit darker actually. Let's see, add that for you. All right, I think that'll be better, yeah. Going over top, I'm just gonna make sort of like a bit of a circle. I hope you can see this. A circle, and then it just has sort of a little bit on top, almost like they're kind of quite berry-like, really, except they're attached. So these little centers. And just kind of make them a little bit irregular. And when I fill them in, you'll be able to see them a little bit more. So I'm gonna just create a layer right below and grab that lighter yellow. I'm just gonna stay with this brush because it'll be fine. I'll fill this in so you can see them a little bit better. All right, there. Okay, so little center berries. Maybe I'll make one more. Going back to that dark brown, back to that layer. And make one just like a little bit of a bigger one. Let's see if that, maybe one more. Yeah, just to kind of ground that in there. Make it sit back a bit. Okay, let's see. Great. Okay, so I'm going to fill in the rest of my poinsettia with just a solid red. So I'm going to go to the layer below our sketch layer and just add a new layer. Grab this medium red color. Let's go to the monoline just to fill in. And I'm going to fill in all the petals that aren't touching each other, and I'll show you what I mean by that. It's kind of like how I like to paint watercolor in real life. And there is a method to my madness, I think. It will help us when we want to do all the shading and stuff. So I'm going to do a petal first. Let's get in there. Actually, I can have this all the way up to 100, about 90%, I think. Just fill that in. Great. Okay, so now I'm not going to do any of the ones that touch it exactly. So I'm going to go to my next one over here and fill this guy in. So we're going to need a couple layers for this, but it helps with when you're doing some sort of painted effects. You don't have to. You can do it by hand if you want, but this just will make it a little bit faster and a little bit easier, I find. Okay, so I'm going to create a new layer and just carry on. So I'm going to do the next one beside here. Okay, add another layer. We're almost there. Okay, and lastly, we have to do 4. We'll just get this last one on here. So we're all colored in here. So as you can see, we have 4 layers so that none of them actually touch each other. So that will help us in this next step. So what I'm going to do is go to my first layer that I did, that bottom one, hit the plus sign, tap on it, hit clipping mask. And I'm going to go grab that darker red and then get that watercolor. It might help to turn these off just so we remember actually which ones we're doing, if that helps you. And we can bring this up, let's see, maybe about 23% or so. and just kind of rub the edges, because as you know, with the clipping mask, it's just gonna, the paint is only gonna go on this layer that we have it clipped to. So just kind of, oops, a little too far, rubbing these edges. It'll give that sort of painted look, but of course this is sort of a weird hybrid of watercolor and ink, and so we're gonna have a little bit different look, but if you'll see what I mean, if you took that off, it's gonna have that dried paint look. But we're kind of doing this hybrid illustrative watercolor inky look. That's one of my favorites. So yeah, just have it look like that. And you can just feel free to move around your brush size just as you see fit, wherever you need to do it. It just might be smaller for the smaller areas, of course. So I'm just constantly playing around with that. So I'm going to want it to be, you know, darker in the center, sort of working its way out. And this will actually really help separate the petals to make them really stand out on their own. Yeah, so again, just play with your sizes, just depending on where you're trying to paint. A little bit smaller for this part, a little bit bigger for the outside. Okay, and then next we'll do the same thing. We'll add this next layer, tap on it, hit the plus sign, add a clipping mask, same thing, go up to about 30%, bring in some shadows. Now, since these are overlapping, maybe there'll be more of a shadow on this side, since that petal would cast a shadow maybe. Kind of makes it look more like they have little wiggles in them, you know, just at the edges. I think it looks good. Right, and then the next one, let's just do that, turn that on, plus sign, clipping mask, and carry on. Oops, I think I missed that one before. Go back and grab that. This one here, I'm just gonna go grab that before I forget. So this layer, this petal, get that little guy. So it's a little darker than I wanted. Okay. Right, and the last one, let's turn that on. Plus sign, clipping mask. And get these little nuggets down here. All right. Cool, so now we have some interesting shadows going on, some more painted effects. We can go back in and actually see if we change our layer modes, if they make a difference. Sometimes I like to use multiply quite a bit. I'm not sure we need to with this, but let's have a look. Maybe just play with the opacity. It might just bring a little bit more depth to it using the multiply. But because it's a similar color, it doesn't affect it too much, but I think that might just give it a touch more richness. So we can stick with that. Next, I'm going to go back in actually to my line layer here and add some more veining work. So I'm going to go and grab that dark red still and go back to favorite sketch. And I do believe we were on about 35%. And these veins are relatively noticeable on a poinsettia, so I think we should add them. So I'm just going to push probably a little bit more at the beginning and a little bit lighter at the ends, just to have them so they go a little bit softer. Again, hopefully you're seeing this here. So I'm just going to go through and just kind of try to have a somewhat gentle hand to it, Just a little bit of pressure at the beginning and just really lightly follow the contours of the petal. Okay, my goodness, lots of lines. So I think that really gives it that proper poinsettia look. So that's good. Let's give our little bits in the middle some shadow here. So I'm going to just pop a clipping mask over top here, grabbing this medium golden color. Actually, I can still stay with this mono brush for this, I think, just because they are so small. You can just kind of do little circles and shadow, or shade them in rather, just give them a little bit of depth. That's good. And next I want to put a little bit of a highlight on here, so I'm going to just go below my line layer, grab a new layer, and get that light pink back to the watercolor. Let's have it at about 10–11%, somewhere around there. Just bring in some highlights, just really lightly, just where you think that light might catch here. I'm having more of my shadows this way. It's, yeah, just putting the highlights more on the left hand side. We're not doing an exact like lighting theory class today, just sort of just giving it a little bit of pop. Okay, I think that's good. And I said I was going to add a little bit of greenery, which, why don't we do that? I'm going to go to the very bottom, to that very old sketch layer, grabbing a new layer, and let's just, I don't know, figure out where we can put a little bit of green. So oddly enough, the leaves do look somewhat like the petals themselves, so we shouldn't be too far off. Oops. Helps if I use the right pen. It'll be our favorite sketch, of course. Still at 35%. Let's just add in a little leaf there. Let's see. I'm gonna put just a little bit here. Just wanted a little irregular. Irregular but balanced. It's always the challenge. Trying to get this so it's a little bit point. Let's see. do a little bit there. And we're gonna have it there too. Okay, so I'm just gonna make my centers in there. Let's just have a little bit of veining. Right, and then I will fill this in, so layer below, get that light green, grab the monoline, have it at about 80%. We can just fill this all in. Can't believe it's already starting to ripping to think about Christmas. Oh my goodness. I don't know about you, but I am not ready. Okay, that's probably all right. And same thing, we're gonna just add a new layer, of course, clipping mask, the darker green here. Grab the watercolor, and let's have it at about, I don't know, 20%, and just get some paint on there to make it look a little less just solid. Get the shadows coming up. Or closer to the center, of course, light around the edges. It'll give us a natural highlight already. Great. Okay, my goodness, we did it. So thank you so much for joining me today, and if you did like this tutorial, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and don't forget to hit that bell icon so you'll be notified of new tutorials just like this one. Thanks again, guys. Love you so much, and I'll see you in the next one.